What's going on, everybody? Isaac here, coming at you from the car. Obviously, you're not blind. Well, maybe you are, but most likely you probably are not. Anyways, today is April 19th, 2023, and I'm here to tell you about an extremely historic event that happened on April 19th, 1775, here in what is now the United States of America. So let's start the tale the night before, April 18th. We've got reports going around the city of Boston, Massachusetts, that the British regulars are coming to town and they're going to go outside the city of Boston to these towns, Lexington and Concord, in Connecticut, I believe is where they are located. Or no, it's Massachusetts. I don't know. New England. I guess Massachusetts, maybe Connecticut. New England's small. It's all small up there. But anyways, April 18th. This guy who was very important in the early days of the American Revolution. His name's Dr. His name not is, it was Dr. Joseph Warren, received these reports, and he sent out riders to warn people that the British were coming. The most famous of these riders is Paul Revere, who every American should have learned about in elementary school. There was a famous poem written by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, I believe, or maybe Walt Whitman. Man, need some fact checkers around here. Anyways, Midnight Ride of Paul Revere was written, but a lot of the ride and warnings were given by another man named William Dawes, who is just as important, if not more important, than Paul Revere himself. So these guys are riding around out of Boston and through the countryside and down the Boston Neck and out there through the night, midnight, that the British are coming. They also lit these lanterns in the Great North Church, two if by land, one if by sea. Now, the next morning and all throughout the night, people who lived in Massachusetts and surrounding areas came to be awakened by the calls of William Dawes and Paul Revere to gather, arm themselves. They were the Minutemen. Get ready for the British coming within a minute's notice. Be prepared to defend your home and your new country. At that point, independence wasn't really the key. It was getting representation still, but all that was yet to come. So early in the morning, April 19th, 1775, all of these Minutemen were gathered around. The British were coming to confiscate arms that were stored up in the towns for emergencies. Indian raids could still be common at that point in time. And everybody, like a lot of towns at that point in time, had a powder magazine. They call it, were stocked full of arms and gunpowder. You can see a great version of one in Colonial Williamsburg in Virginia if you ever get there. Maybe they have one in Massachusetts at these sites as well. I couldn't tell you, I've never been, but I have been to Williamsburg and they do have one there, and it is the original powder magazine from the colonial era. A lot of Colonial Williamsburg is actually recreations built in the 20th century. Now, outside Lexington was the first hurrah, where the British were coming. All of these colonists, farmers, and townsfolk from the countryside came out with their rifles and defended themselves against the British. There was death. Many shots were fired. The first shot fired, the shot heard around the world, although I don't believe anyone really knows who fired the first shot at this point in history. A lot of these colonial Minutemen were led by a guy named Colonel Parker. He was an important guy at this event. He would not survive too much longer. I believe he was dead later that year of some disease, probably tuberculosis. But he was the leader at this point and held firm to a point. You know, the British did kind of roll through Lexington, but it wasn't without a fight. They went on to Concord, where they were stopped by colonial militia, Minutemen, and the Revolutionary War had started. Now, this is 1775. The British started hammering down on the colonists with taxes, unfair taxes, because they didn't have representation in British Parliament over a decade prior. They started with different acts that, you know, the Stamp Act and Sugar Act, tolerable acts are things that brought new taxes to the British colonies in North America, and they had no say in the British government to, you know, verify these taxes, get representation and votes for these taxes. You know, things boiled up a bit in 1770. The Boston Massacre happened, but it took 5 years for additional shots to be fired. Now, the Boston Massacre, the shots were only fired by the British soldiers. But April 19th, 1775, shots were fired by British colonists against the British regular army. And here we are today in 2023, the greatest nation on earth. Yes, I still said that, even though we are in Joe Biden's America. But nevertheless, I still think America is the greatest nation on earth. And we have those men in Massachusetts. You have Dr. Warren, Captain Parker, I think I said Colonel earlier. It's one of those CE officer words. I believe he was a French and Indian War vet, so he knew what was up. And then he commanded the militia of Minutemen that showed up around Lexington and Concord, and showed the British that we were not giving up our arms to defend ourselves from an oppressive government. The future has yet to hold if such an event will take place again in 21st century America. Always debates going on of banning weapons and stuff for ordinary citizens. So, not the first time it happened on this continent. 1775. So, hope you enjoyed those few little facts there that I gave you. And look up some more information on this event. There's a lot of, there's a few things that need some fact checking in there in this video, but hope you enjoyed listening to it. If you can find it, there was a movie made, I think in the 70s, with Tommy Lee Jones called April Morning. about the events at Lexington and Concord. If you can check that out. But anyways, enjoy the rest of your day.